Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. Today we're going to be talking about a Charlie Intel post about the first new details about Gauntlets coming to Black Ops 4 Zombies. But before we get into the actual content of that, I want to talk about leaks real quick. My opinion of leaks has changed a lot over the years. When I first started YouTube, I was just a little kid, like 13 years old or something, and my opinion of leaks was, well, I mean, I don't care. Other people want to see it. If I post a leak, maybe some people will think I'm cool because I've got leaked info, and then I'll be able to sort of grow an audience like that. Maybe that'll be a good way to kind of get my name out there. And I very quickly realized that I just didn't really want to be filling that role, I guess. And then the years went on, and leaks started really affecting certain things that I really cared about that Treyarch were doing for zombies. There were various ARGs, there were various DLCs, there were various things that they were doing in the game that were getting leaked in advance. A perfect example is the Origins end cutscene. That got leaked before people had actually got to it in-game, and for a lot of people, thankfully not myself, but for a lot of people, it ruined the ending. Completely ruined it. And so, my opinion on leaks then was, yeah, okay, this is something I want to avoid at all costs. I think that if you're leaking, you're doing a disservice to the community. I get that some people think that it makes everyone's kind of hype greater, but my opinion was that that was just not the case. And the years have gone on, and Treyarch have done various things to try and prevent leaks in their games and prevent data mining, etc., etc. And we're at the point now where we're a few months into Black Ops 4, and leaks are still prevalent for everything. Like, pretty much everything has been leaked in this game. We've had leaks about the DLC season, we've had leaks about the Easter eggs in the maps that we already have, we've got leaks about upcoming game modes, we've got leaks about upcoming features, and now we've got leaks about Gauntlets, which just got announced for the first time yesterday and no one had heard about at all before then. I'm kind of in a position now where I'm like, I still am not a big fan of leaks, but it's sort of also my job to just talk about the news in the community and talk about what's happening and talk about the events surrounding this game. And so I'm sort of in a place where I'm like, yeah, I guess I sort of have to talk about this. And I just don't understand how Treyarch seem to slip up so often and let literally everything in their games leak. Like, I just don't get how they have such a consistently awful track record here. It's bizarre because Activision has this clamp on all its employees. You talk to any Treyarch or Activision employee and they are towing the line perfectly about every single thing that they do at their job. They won't tell you any secrets. Not that I try and get them, but you go anywhere even near the prospect of talking about upcoming content, and any Treyarch dev will, like, shut down and crumple in front of you. Like, it's a very weird thing. And I get it, it's because they really value their jobs, they really like the work that they're doing, and they definitely do not want to be the possible source of anything slipping out and ruining someone's experience. I get it, and, like, it's totally understandable, and I'm glad that that's the way that they are. I'm glad that they're very kind of protective of that sort of thing. It's just the fact that that is kind of the culture to such an extent, and yet QA testers have been leaking, not just the guy that was fired, but QA testers have been leaking for years, literally like 5-6 years or something insane like that. QA testers have been leaking stuff in the games. You've got other people on the team that have been leaking things as well, and it's just meant that nothing is a surprise anymore. Nothing. Which sucks. But Treyarch just haven't been able to stop it, ever. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? You kind of got to talk about these things. I mean, you'd think maybe that they would learn their lesson and decide that maybe their marketing strategy wasn't working and they needed to take control of the narrative and actually, instead of letting these things slip out, just tell people what's going on in the first place instead. But apparently that is a leap too far for the Zombies PR, and as such, they continue to just not really tell us anything about anything in the game, and then it leaks instead. I completely sympathize with all of the people over the years that have basically said, I think they're doing this on purpose. I think this is their marketing strategy. Like, I've talked to Jason, I've talked to several other people in the company. It's not their marketing strategy. They still see it as a bad thing, but instead of taking control of the narrative and just telling us things before they can leak, like the information we're going to talk about today, we just end up with this weird other kind of swirly-whirly mess. And it's bizarre. It's just odd. So, I'm going to be talking about this today. 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't have talked about this, but times change, and I feel a lot less sympathy for Treyarch right now, just based on the fact that this was so easily preventable. So easily. They could have told us all this information yesterday, and no one would have been upset, nothing would have been spoiled, it would have been fine. I just don't understand why they don't do that. So, to the content of today's video, as Charlie and Tell state, on January 8th, so yesterday, Treyarch gave a long-awaited update to fans on what's coming to Black Ops 4 Zombies. Among additions like Mastery Camos and new elixirs, what's caught most attention was the brand new Gauntlets mode. Treyarch didn't say anything about the Gauntlets at all, other than that it was releasing first on Voyage on PS4, but apparently on October 30th, literally last year, and only a couple weeks after the game came out, there was a data mine or something which literally had the following description of Gauntlets just in the game code. And Treyarch have been pretty good about hashing other things in their game codes so that they wouldn't be leaked and data mined and stuff like that, but for some reason, this was just in the code. It wasn't encrypted, it wasn't hashed, nothing. It was just there. It says, gather your crew and face the gauntlet. Based on classic mode, each gauntlet features 30 rounds of challenges with different rules each round. Medals and special rewards are earned at rounds 10, 20, and 30. If your crew fails to complete a round as instructed, you will get a strike. 3 strikes and it's game over. New gauntlets will be released periodically with all new challenges, and all gauntlet matches are timed, so get out there and set some records. Now then, the first thing to say about this is, obviously this is a leak from months ago, and they didn't even mention this at all until now, so there's a good chance that what you've just read is actually not going to be what's in the game. There's a very good chance that they've changed things up a little bit. However, it also wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if what we've just read and what you just heard is exactly what we got. Like, it just would not shock me at all if they've been sitting on this content and waiting to release it now. I think that the style of mode itself, if it is as described here, sounds fairly interesting, and it sounds like something that would be really useful for tournaments like ZWC, for example. We had races to round 30 and things like that in the previous ZWC, and those styles of games are always really, really high energy because, for example, we were playing on Kino for the first ZWC. It was a race through to the very end. People were overtaking each other and kind of messing up in one area, and then another team would zoom ahead and then they would mess up, and it was really frantic. And the fact that this is basically the same as that, it's basically a round 30 speedrun, except there's modifiers each round, and therefore presumably there's modifiers for everyone in the game. I actually think that's really pretty damn cool, and it will be great for that tournament. However, it doesn't say anything about whether you can go head-to-head with another team here. Like, I think that the whole point in a gauntlet would be for you to go against someone else or another crew, right? But it doesn't really seem to describe you actually going head-to-head with another group. And so what I'd ideally like to see would be a system where I could play in a team of 4, and I could pick another up to maybe 3 teams that I could also play against, and the game would basically give us all the same rule set and the same series of different rules on each round, and then basically start us at the same time, create the lobby for us, do all the work, put us in the game at the same time, the whole shebang. Like, that's always a problem with these sorts of things at ZWC, is that you've got to like load the game, and then it loads differently depending on what PS4 you have, and then some people blue screen on loading the game, like we did with Revelations, and actually all sorts of maps when we were doing the Zombies Chronicles maps. Like, I blue screened on like Verrückt, and then I blue screened on Kino. I think it was awful, and it would be really cool if Treyarch basically went just the final extra step further and said, this is basically a tournament-ready game mode. Like, as long as the rules are the same each round, as long as it's repeatable in that kind of way, as long as you can seed it in some way so you can apply the same rule set to multiple people's games at the same time, if they just built out that functionality so that we could actually play together as a system in-game, That would be immaculate. But we have no idea if that's going to be possible or not because this description, like I said, is months old at this point, and we don't even know if it's going to be accurate or not. I do like the fact that they're finally giving us new modes. I think that that is a good thing, 100%. Personally, I feel like Zombie Rush could have been much cooler, but was really under-supported, and there are things that are wrong with Zombie Rush that have stayed wrong with it to this day that I think just show that they don't really care about that mode. Like, an example being, when you first sort of got the game, you jumped in, you'd be playing Zombie Rush against a couple other people, right? And let's say you're really good and the other people suck. Let's say that they all die out, they lose all their lives, but you're left with all of your lives and you're still alive right at the end when they're all bled out and fully dead, right? At that point, to end the game, you need to down yourself, let yourself get back up again, down yourself, let yourself get back up again, down yourself, let yourself get back up. Like, you have to do that and burn through all your lives manually in order to end the game. Like, why doesn't it just end when you win? Things like that feel like a lack of attention to detail that completely kind of takes the finesse and the polish away from the game mode. And as much as the rest of it might be really fun, elements like that make it end up feeling like something that was just sort of shunted out to say, hey, there's a new mode, but it's not really designed to go anywhere for tournament play. It's not really meant to be something that you compete at a super crazy high level. It's just this sort of thing that we threw together. And obviously it's not, and that's doing a disservice to the hard work that I'm sure went into it, but it's those sorts of little decisions that end up taking the grandeur away from the larger thing, if that makes sense. So I'm hopeful that this time around with Gauntlets, we get a new mode that does really exceed any potential that we currently think it might have, and ends up being a staple that Zombies players are playing for a long time. I mean, I just can't see anyone playing Zombie Rush in 6 months' time. I just can't really see it, but something like Gauntlets, maybe we would end up seeing in the future if that was something that then got kind of integrated into the high rounds community, that really hardcore competitive scene, who completely grind the game out non-stop. They're the game's most dedicated players by far. If they like it and they kind of integrate it into what they're doing, Zombie Rush could be something that we want to be playing for years to come. Who knows? Let me know your thoughts about whether that's going to be the case or not in the comments down below, and also any predictions you have for ways that this might have changed since the original description was written back in October. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been MrRoflWaffles. I'll see you next time. Bye.